All right. So it looks like people are trickling in. That's great. I think it's a good time to start because we have a lot of great content to cover today. A topic I'm personally very passionate about. I think it's super exciting topic, and it's a great time for people in sales and marketing and in general, really across any industry, the profound impact that generative AI is having. But today I want to just focus on the trends that are happening in B2B sales and marketing. So just some few housekeeping notes. The recording and slides will be sent. Like I said, this is a very content heavy, lots of actionable tips. I might go too fast for some, but I will send the slides over to you guys so that you can take time to review the content. We're going to periodically stop for questions. We also have this thing that's going to be a QR code on the slide. So anytime we do a poll, we would love to make it interactive. All you have to do is take your camera out on your phone, scan the QR code, and then select the option to vote. It's a pretty cool little feature here that we love using. And at the end, of course, we'll do some Q&A to go deeper and onto some questions. So the content for today is, I'll give a bit of a context on generative AI and why is email a great use case and application for generative AI. We'll cover data and prospecting, different use cases. I'm even going to open up ChatGPT and show you how to do effective prompts for sales and marketing. And then we're going to cover content and copy, how to tie that into a personalized campaign. So right off the bat, the key takeaways here are that generative AI is very useful for productivity, especially text-heavy tasks. Generative AI is really coined after the large language models, the movement around large language models, then becoming commercially available, and now we're seeing AI sprinkled into every product. Really most useful to eliminate what's called writer's block. So a very good way to jumpstart creativity and create shortcuts for yourself. Generative AI is also fantastic for doing better personalization, which is essentially the goal of great sales and marketing. But we should always keep a critical mind because AI does make a ton of mistakes. And so it's not perfect and it's prone to what we call hallucinations. Now, the big claim that technologists are making is that all knowledge work is going to become AI assisted, specifically as well sales and marketing. And the analogy I like to use is the iPhone moment. So ChatGPT is very much the iPhone moment. Lots of there's almost a before and after the iPhone moment. Could we even remember, what the world looked like before the iPhone, before all these applications were created? Applications like Uber, applications like just instant Slack messaging, all these were created because of how the iPhone democratized all those applications. And so we're seeing the same thing, I think, with ChatGPT. There's a clear before and after moment. And every company is really asking themselves, just like they did when Steve Jobs introduced the iPhone, they all asked themselves, what's my mobile strategy, right? That was the key question everyone asked themselves. What's my mobile strategy? Nowadays, it's what's my generative AI strategy? How can I stay competitive? So you can't afford to be left behind. You have to find a way to participate into this movement. And, the iPhone in 2007 looked very different than what the iPhone looks like today. So a lot of what's going to happen with generative AI is that we're going to hit copy and paste, just like we did with the iPhone. And then think 13 years from now, what is ChatGPT going to look like 13 years from now? It's going to be a lot better, just like the iPhone, 13 and 14 are today. So exponential growth, this is for the iPhone. So exponential growth over the last 13 years. And ChatGPT, the adoption is exponential, but it's clear that we're still early. So only 14% of adults have actually tried ChatGPT. And what's crazy is that only 3% use it for work today. So if you're in this session today, kudos to you. You're part of the small 3% that are the early adopters, the forward-thinking people in your company, because it's still very, very new. But we've been using AI for many years. It's already been integrated into a lot of products that we use. A clear example of this is Google Search and Gmail. So as you probably have noticed in Gmail, there's a lot of autocomplete functionality, pre-selected answers, and that is using, AI, and it's using large language models to be able to do that. But so I think we as professionals are moving from author to editor. So we're no longer going to be working on things from scratch. We're really going to instruct the AI to do some work for us, and then we're going to become the editor. We're going to edit the work. And the reason why is because humans are super complicated, right? And this is a funny tweet. Software engineers, coding is something that we didn't think could be automated by AI. But it turns out that coding is actually the number one place for AI to automate, because there's a lot of there's a lot of similar patterns. There's a huge training data set of code that's available in the world on things like GitHub. So there's a ton of people that were confused to see that coding could be actually automated by AI. But the truth is that the human component of asking what needs to be done, what is the problem we're solving, what are the requirements. I mean, this changes constantly. Humans flip-flop on decisions, or we constantly change our requirements. There's too many variables at play. So we're safe from being automated by AI. There's always going to be a human component. And what I like to say is that we're entering the era of SaaS 3.0. So it used to be that we had technology that was more on-prem, so hosted on servers, company servers that were in a specific location. That was generation 1.0. Generation 2.0 is everything went to the cloud, right? That was a relatively new thing in 2008, 2005. Everything moves into the cloud. All the applications in your organization are synced together. And that gave rise to companies like Yubico or companies like Zapier, where there's a need for this automation to connect different pieces of information. And then generation 3.0 is going to become software that does the work for you. So from that author to editor, we're going to instruct the AI, hey, create this campaign for me that looks like this, or with this many touch points, or write this blog post that speaks about this. And then it generates a first draft, and then you'll be able to edit that work. So it's a profound change in how we're going to work. And the sorts of problems and the areas and the use cases that are going to be prone for automation, these are three very good conditions for the types of problems that generative AI can solve. The task needs to be text, so text-heavy tasks. There need to be many examples, what we call training data. So back to the example of coding, there's so many examples online on GitHub that tells you what's good code versus what's bad code. And then tasks and problems that don't need over 90% accuracy rate. That's why industries like healthcare, doing an image analysis to do early cancer detection. I mean, 90% accuracy actually isn't good enough for those use cases. It really needs to be close to, or if not 100% accuracy. But for things like sales and marketing, you don't need that 100% accuracy. And email is a place that is hugely prone to automation. And the reason why email is a huge place to automation is because of those three conditions we just talked about, but also because there's a ton of text in your inbox. There's a ton of there's a ton of good examples and bad examples of what makes a good email, what makes a bad email. And also because just in generally, email is ubiquitous and it's preferred by buyers. It's preferred by your customers as a method for communication. Even during the pandemic, it turned out that a lot of people were saying that channels like email are going to become too noisy. There's going to be too much noise, too much information in your inbox. But it turns out that it's actually it was still the most effective way of reaching your audience. And today, it still drives the highest return on investment out of any channel. So it's about $40 for every dollar spent. So email is a very cost-effective way of reaching your audience, but it has to adapt. So there need to be shifts in your email strategy and how you go to market with email, because buyers are getting younger, they're expecting personalization, and they're increasingly mobile, right? They're forming their opinions without even reaching out to your sales team in the first place. So all of your collateral online, the reviews about your company, the LinkedIn posts that you publish, the social proof, the testimonials from your customers, all those things are informing the decisions that your buyers are making. So 2/3 of the buying process is done with minimal influence from you and your sales team. So what that means is your online presence, your digital strategies need to influence that process. And what's happened as well is that sales and marketing has shifted to more, we've kind of flipped the funnel now, where it's more about doing personalized account-based marketing. So, it used to be classic sales funnel, just drive as many leads as you can at the top of the funnel, convert those at every stage from top of funnel to middle of funnel to then bottom of funnel. And then at every stage, you have different types of initiatives to drive conversion rates down the funnel. But today, there is so much noise online. There's so many companies that compete with you. It's these classic sales funnels don't perform as well as modern sales funnels, which is you first start with identifying who you're going after, and often we refer to that as the ideal customer profile, and then we drive them down the funnel. But we start by being very, very specific with who needs to see our messaging at what time, and this drives bigger conversion rates. So it turns out that you can reach to a lesser amount of people, but drive higher conversion rates. And so in sales, what's important to do in sales is to empower yourself with all of these new AI tools to help you do that modern marketing funnel, to help you do that account-based marketing approach. You won't be able to do it with the old process and the old tools that you're used to using. You have to incorporate AI into how you write your emails. So using a writing assistant, who should you be targeting for audience suggestion? Also, when you are having calls with prospects, are you recording those calls? When you record those calls using a tool like gong.io, you can start to get analytics. As a sales professional, you could start to know, what are the 5 most common objections that my prospects are bringing up? And then also you could go further and say, what are the 3 or the 5 answers that we're giving to those objections that are leading to a sale? Those are very rich insights that really only using AI can unlock for you. Now, I want to take a moment to just pause here and ask everybody, what is your top performing channel for customer acquisition? So if you can scan this QR code at the top left here, and then just punch in, what is your most effective channel for customer acquisition today? Okay, awesome. Thank you for everyone who actually voted on the poll. So referrals seems to be the top performing channel. Honestly, as it should be, referrals really is the best source of new business because that means you have happy customers that are referring other customers to you. So I'm glad to see we have a lot of people here in the audience that have happy customers. Referrals, there's pros and cons to all of these channels. Referrals is hard to scale, right? So if you only have 10 customers, there's a limit to the amount of referrals you can get. Email seems to be the second most performing channel. And then the third is good old fashioned cold calling, which still works in a lot of industries. But what we see working best for cold calling is, when are you doing the cold calling? Of course, calling leads who are coming inbound and are inquiring to learn more about your product or service. Cold calling is very effective. But cold calling a person who hasn't heard about you and hasn't received any communication from you, those tend to be very low conversion rates. But the truth is that you have to do all these things to have an effective go-to-market strategy. It's not just one thing. It really is everything at once. So a lot of businesses don't have predictable sources of new leads. So back to, referrals isn't predictable, right? You can't control how many referrals you're going to get in a given month. So it's hard to measure. And, if you can't measure it, you can't really improve it. You can't drive meaningful improvements. So the framework we like to use is spears, seeds, and nets. So seeds is really the word of mouth. So referrals. Nets is your marketing. So webinars like this today that we're doing, or pieces of content like blog posts, or ebooks, white papers, pieces of collateral that you're giving your audience. And then spears is really the targeted outreach, that ABM, account-based marketing funnel. You're identifying, here are the 100 leads I need to go after this month because they're a great fit. They're part of our ideal customer profile. And so those would fit under the spears category. And email really provides this sort of repeatable sales process to go after new leads. Now, the foundational piece to any successful marketing or sales program is really data. And part of doing prospecting is really having great quality data. And when looking at running any sort of sales and marketing program, a useful framework to use as well is the Build, Measure, Learn framework. So this is used from lean startup methodology. So the smart folks in Silicon Valley came up with this framework, but it's simple to understand. Marketing is all about experiments. Sales is all about running different experiments. So you build an experiment, you execute the experiment, measure how customers respond or how prospects respond, and then you learn whether you need to pivot or persevere. So the feedback is either going to tell you should double down on this or you should change this. And what that could mean in sales and email outbound is you could be launching a new campaign. You could learn that the conversion rates are not high. So you're not getting a good open rate, not getting a good response rate. And then you can change your value propositions. Maybe you should change your target profile slightly. Maybe you should change the messaging. Maybe you should change the call to action that you're using. Maybe change the frequency. Running all these tests is really what is going to get you closer to that higher conversion rate. And the way we break it down is, of course, we want to achieve personalization because that's what great sales and marketing is about. And it's really a trifecta of these three things, which is prospect, problem, and timing. In other words, who are we targeting? Who are we targeting? What are we saying? And when are we sending this message? So the who, what, when. So who, of course, is the prospect. What is the problem? What problem are we claiming to solve? And then when are we reaching out to them? The timing of it. And this really, the prospect piece is really ideal customer profile. So if you're not clear on your ICP, you then won't know what campaigns to run, what channels to test. So you've got to get clear on the problem you're solving for, the goals really of that prospect, and your capabilities. What's the solution to solving that problem? And we can use AI, and I'll show you guys here how to use ChatGPT to help you figure out your target profile. And before we jump into that, these are the most common categories of things you can get, things that ChatGPT can assist you with: generation, extraction, summarization, rewriting, Q&A, and classification. I won't have time to go over all of these, but I do have a few examples for two of these categories today. Let's start with generation. So to find our ICP, normally we look at these three factors: who has the highest intensity of pain point, who has the highest revenue potential, and then who has the highest close rate. But to use ChatGPT, I can simply enter this prompt. So I'm going to copy text here just to save time. I've already pre-written this text. Oops. I'm going to paste it into ChatGPT. And then I'm going to let it do its magic. It's going to give me a response back telling me who are the 5 potential buyers I could reach out to. So it gave me 5 here. This actually really aligns with our ICP today for us Yubico. And then the second thing here is, can I build an outreach sequence? So I could say act as an SDR, build an outreach sequence with emails, LinkedIn touch points, calls to connect with the prospect, make it 5 days long. So let's see what it comes up with. So like I said, it's very easy to eliminate writer's block with ChatGPT. For tasks like these, I know creating a campaign actually can be time consuming for a lot of us. And so this gives you quick ideas. I've used ChatGPT. I'm using it a ton. I never, copy paste what ChatGPT has given me and used it in my work. I always take little ideas, or sometimes there's a really good sentence or there's a really good point that it's making that I then use in my work. But this is a great framework to use. You do an introduction. There's a LinkedIn touch point here. You can ask it to create a sales script. But here it's given me a quick, 5-step multi-channel, multi-touch sequence. Now, to be able to effectively use ChatGPT, it's often important to give it more context. So in B2B marketing, these are really the 4 categories of data that marketers have access to. So firmographic and demographic data points. So firmographic, it's data about the company. Demographic, it's data about the actual buyer. Contextual, have they logged in to your application? And then behavioral is more, have they requested a demo? Have they signed up on have they created an account? Did they download an ebook? We can leverage this contextual data in ChatGPT, but more importantly, we can leverage this data into our outreach to make it more personalized. Now, when we speak about personalization, it often, I feel people are too over analytical about it. You don't actually need to be super personalized to get great results. It really depends on the ACV, so the annual contract value you're selling into. So templated works very good for more of an inside sales model if you're targeting SMB. Semi-custom, the good old 80-20 rule, 20% of it is personalized, 80% of templated. That works really, really good if you're going more mid-market and you're heavy on outbound. And then, of course, the more enterprise deals, the six-figure deals, those typically need to be, of course, you can have a template, but those typically need to be very, very personalized. For example, if you're targeting the Fortune 500, that means you only have 500 buyers. You could find contacts, who are those buyers within that Fortune 500, but to use automation to go after those 500 is not a great fit, just because you can reach out to those 500 potential buyers manually. And they're they're usually buyers that are being sold to all the time. So they're busy and they have a ton of outbound messaging going towards them. So you really need to stand out to get their attention. And so that's why going fully custom is a better fit for that. And even a funny example here is I ran an experiment to email Jeff Bezos. Unfortunately, Jeff is too busy partying on his yacht to answer me, but his assistant has answered me. She did answer my email, and it's just to show you that, busy people check email, or busy people who have assistants, check their emails. Email, all of us spend many hours per day in email, especially if you're in sales and marketing, you're spending most of your day in email. If you walk into a train or if you walk into an airplane, the most common application that you're going to see that's open is their email inbox. So we spend a ton of time in email. You may think that buyers are not opening their emails, but they are. They're opening their emails, they're reading it, but they're quickly making a decision if this is relevant to them or not. So we talked about the prospect, the target profile, talked about the problem. Now, the timing is really intent data. So when should you reach out to that lead, right? And the reason why you want to know that is because you want to reach out to them at the right time when they're evaluating or they're potentially in the market to buy your product or service. So these are some signals that, for example, we offer at Yubico, our sales intelligence and outreach platform. We provide these intent data points, but you can also manually find these on your own on LinkedIn. Is a company hiring for specific roles that your product or service can automate, right? So, for example, if you're a recruiting service, you may want to find companies that are hiring for a ton of roles versus reaching out to a company that's hiring for 0 roles. If they're hiring for 0 roles, there's really no need for a recruiting service. If they're hiring for 40 different roles and you see that those roles aren't being filled, probably a very good idea to reach out to them because they're more likely to consider your service. And you can apply that to anything: marketing services, products, SaaS companies. You can apply that to anything. And then here's an example. You can, in that email when you reach out to them, you can pull that data point. For example, this one is new LinkedIn post. So the prospect wrote a new LinkedIn post. You can reference that inside of your email to show that you've done your research. It could be a press release that they've released on their website. So you can tie it into that. It's a lot more relevant to them. Or it could be a new blog post on their blog. Now let's talk about content and copy. So what's fascinating is that in 2 years, third of marketing messages, outbound marketing messages, are going to be synthetically generated. And that's up from 2% in 2022. So it's a huge increase in the amount of people using automation to create their outbound messages. And the reason why is because marketers know that generative AI is hugely beneficial to their content creation. So HubSpot did a report, and they surveyed 1,300 professionals. Most people say that it helps them save time and allow them to create content faster. Not only the quantity, but also the quality. So both quantity and quality. And of course, it gives them new ideas on what to write next. And the stats are really crazy because marketers are able to save 3 hours on average per day. So they're able to save 3 hours per day by using AI. And most marketers are saying that it's super effective for content creation. So the best companies are using generative AI to create content. And how do they use it? Like we discussed, a great use case is to eliminate writer's block. So that first piece of giving you ideas on what to write helps you create an outline, and then also some paragraphs that you can expand on. So not designed to write the entire blog post and then that's it. It's not full autopilot. It's semi-autopilot. It's semi-automation, but that still saves you 3 hours per day, which is a huge time savings. And the goal of great content is to really enter the conversation that's taking place in your customer's mind, right? This is a famous marketing quote. That's what you want to do with your messaging and your content that you're writing. And when it comes to email and when it comes to email outbound, I'll show you guys some examples of great emails. But some common mistakes that we see, even with some of our customers, is they make it all about them and their company. So it's a pitch right from the start. Way too hard to read, super long emails. Most people are actually busy executives open their email on their mobile phones first. And so if your email is super long, it looks even longer on their mobile device, making it very hard to read. It's too robotic. If it looks like it's been too templated, too automated, that's not good. And it always makes it about the meeting. It's always about, can I get some time out of your day? People are always busy, right? Anyone you talk to, that's a potential buyer, potential customer, they're too busy to answer you. So making it about the meeting is a very hard conversion to try to accomplish. It's much easier to try to get someone to just engage with your email and get them to respond with a shorter answer than to have them decide if they actually want to take 30 minutes out of their busy schedule to meet with you. So I'll show you some real examples of what good emails look like. Credit first goes to Kyle Coleman. I always say this is everybody should follow him on LinkedIn. Fantastic content on sales and marketing. So please give him a follow. Now, here's a bad example on the left-hand side and then a good example on the right-hand side. The first example on the left-hand side is 170 words. And trust me, I know the default temptation is to fit as much information as you possibly can in the first email, right? But what we have to realize is that people don't care about our company, as much as we think they should. So the goal in the first email, or even in the entire email sequence, is not actually to get the meeting. The goal is actually to get a response, just to see if this is even relevant to them to have a conversation in the first place. So this here on the left-hand side talks too much about them and their company, goes right into the pitch. There's a link to their product. And then, of course, the classic, I want to go ahead and book a meeting with you. Instead, on the right-hand side, it's only 44 words. So what we've seen work best is maximum 50-word emails. Get straight to the point to a question that's relevant to their role. A relevant case, really short version of a case study. Curious to learn how. Curious to learn how is a soft ask call to action. Do I have to, as the potential buyer, do I have to look into my schedule, see when I'm available? It's like, I don't even know if I want to meet this person. I don't know really what they're, even with all this text, I don't really know what they do yet. So curious to learn how. This piques my interest because going from 7 full-time employees processing this amount to 1 does pique my interest. So yes, I'm curious to learn how. So the response here would be yes, show me how. And then a conversation gets started, and then you can work that to booking a meeting. But it's a very different approach than asking for the meeting off the bat. Here as well, another soft call to action is curious to learn more, instead of could we book sometime early next week. This is a good personalization point here at the top. You've got nearly 50 sellers at Clary. So you actually do research on how many salespeople do they have in their company and their sales team. That's a lot more relevant than, hey, we've been checking out your LinkedIn. And then of course here on the left-hand side, again, it's many different bullet points about features and less about benefits. Interested to learn more? Again, that's a very powerful call to action. And then, of course, as you bring in all this contextual data, you can use this sophisticated type of what's called liquid syntax, but really what it is just different variables that you can plug in to make every single email more personalized. This is how you achieve personalization at scale. So let's talk a little bit about extraction. You can do extraction with prospect research and personalization. So you can actually paste a LinkedIn profile of a prospect. To do this, you actually have to go on a person's profile. You have to hit download PDF, and then you would have to copy the text that's in the PDF and put it below here. Here's the LinkedIn profile of a prospect. I'm trying to get this prospect to reply to my LinkedIn messages. What do I need to mention that's relevant to the problems I help solve? Here are the problems I help solve. Find me 5 elements from his resume that I could mention to catch their attention. This is a very powerful one that I recommend you guys try out. And then social selling as well. Suggest 5 personal branding archetypes that I could use for social selling on LinkedIn. For each archetype, give me 3 examples of topics on content I could share. So back to that HubSpot AI report, giving you ideas and inspiration on what to write. ChatGPT is super useful for that. And of course, there's other use cases like summarization. So summarize this email for me, summarize this blog post, rewrite this email in a more friendlier tone. We see that often. Classification. Can you categorize these emails by sentiment? Is it an interested response? Is it a not now? Is it an objection? We do a lot of classification at Yubico. We have that AI-powered email classifiers inside of your inbox. Once you sync with our platform, we help categorize all those responses that come in. And then you start to learn who are the types of leads that are actually answering positively or negatively. And then question answering. This is super interesting that most people don't know about. You could do a lot of like back and forth and role playing essentially with ChatGPT. So you could say like, act as a potential buyer of my solution. So let me show you guys this. You're an agency business owner with a small sales team. You just found our website. Give me some questions you might ask me from which I can qualify your buying intent. And these are some questions that our prospects might ask us. And all of these questions are correct. We've received these questions in the past. And now I can do some role playing here. I can now say, imagine you're seriously considering buying my solution. What are some potential objections you might have? and then give me 2 ways I can answer these objections. So, hey, I've seen several solutions like yours. It's true, we're in a competitive market. So how do we handle those objections? And these are very high level type of answers. You can get specific. So you can just say, give me one objection and give me 4 or 5 different ways to answer those objections. So you could go deeper. So the other use cases are handling objections, summarizing call notes, and problem solving. Problem solving is an interesting one where you could say, hey, I'm having a challenge with my open rate. How can I improve my open rate for my email campaigns? And then ChatGPT will give you some ideas on how to improve that. Hey, my deliverability is suffering. How do I reduce, or how do I improve my email deliverability? What are the things that I need to do? Hey, we're not getting enough signups for our upcoming webinar. What are the things I could do to increase my signups? So all these types of use cases you can punch into ChatGPT. And now I'm going to end with some, before we go into Q&A, just some quick tips on how to now turn all of that into a sales cadence. So a proper step-by-step format to use. So first of all, don't forget, doing any sort of outreach, you want to be building relationships. That's the goal. So you want to create a human connection. So when you are reaching out to them via email, connect with them on LinkedIn, learn more about who they are, what their interests are, and reference the fact that you're trying to connect them on LinkedIn in your email. So multi-channel, multi-touch approach. Then, of course, create the email sequence using those examples that I gave you guys. Intro line, not about you, about them, the value proposition or a relevant case study, and then a soft call to action. Curious to learn how, interested in learning more. And then if you receive this kind of email, would you respond? So do a self-test. Is it clear? Does it sound human? If you see the email you wrote and you say to yourself, I would never respond to this type of email, then you shouldn't write that type of email. You should try to strive to create emails that you yourself would respond to. Then step 4 is about turning it into templates and scaling. So create your templates around your ideal customer profile and then put it into a cadence. So it's super important. Getting good results is often about consistency. So lots of companies will start and stop marketing programs, and then they wonder why they don't drive enough ROI. Well, that's because you keep stopping and you don't give enough time for things to work. So prospecting and doing outreach takes a lot of time, and you need to have a defined cadence to really make it work. You got to add more touch points, right? On average, I think the stats show that it takes like 14 touch points to book a meeting with a prospect. So one email is just not going to cut it. We say no less than 3 emails and no more than 7 emails, but you often see a huge exponential increase in your reply rates when you do more follow-ups. And you see even better conversion rates when you add LinkedIn touch points and phone calls into the mix. A good tactic here as well is to, when you do follow up, you could put it in the new thread. We often do that for 2 or the 3 first emails. And then the 4th email goes into a new thread. So instead of it being a follow-up in the same email thread, it creates a new email thread with a new subject line. So mixing that and experimenting with that tends to improve results. The timing of your message, of course, sending during the weekend isn't ideal. People aren't checking their inboxes on the weekend. So something like Monday to Friday during working hours. And there are patterns where people are more likely to check their emails Wednesday afternoon versus Friday after 1 p.m. Friday after 1 p.m. is probably the worst time. So you may not want, people are too busy thinking about their weekend. So it probably isn't a good time to send. And then as you run this experiment, as you use the build, measure, learn framework, you're starting to see, okay, what is working and then what's not working. So look for your open rates, look for your response rates. What messages are they opening? What messages are they responding to? And then watch for negative signals like people opting out. Of course, A/B testing is critical. Like I mentioned before, marketing is all about running experiments. So you can try things like different subject lines, different call to actions, and so on and so forth. So a couple takeaways here. Generative AI, great for productivity, eliminates writer's block, helps you jumpstart creativity. We all want to achieve personalization. That's what great sales and marketing is about. And generative AI can help us do that. But we have to do it with a critical mind because it does make a lot of mistakes. So it's not something we can just, generate a prompt, copy and paste what ChatGPT wrote and use that in our work. We have to move from, we have to become editors. So editing what the AI spits out is going to be super important. And the biggest takeaway I have is that sales and marketing is going to be completely transformed with AI assisted tools. So make sure you don't get left behind, be an early adopter of all these tools, and you'll see for yourself how much it improves your productivity. And the last thing I'll do here as well is, of course, Yubico, we're in this space of sales and marketing. We help our customers with sales outreach. We automate prospecting, the outreach part. We have AI that categorizes the responses that you get. Our customers increase their revenue using our platform. We've replaced 6 to 7 different tools. So please check us out. You can sign up on yubico.io. We have plans that are very affordable, anything from starting at $100 per month. So please check us out. Thank you guys for your time, and I will now take some questions from the audience. And Sid, maybe you can read out some of the questions here that I'm happy to answer.
Sure. Sure. Thanks once again, Phil, for sharing some very cool insights and the frameworks. It was highly educational for me. I'm confident it was the same for the audience as well. There are some questions coming through. There's multiple questions by an anonymous attendee here. It's around, is ChatGPT still only current through 2021? How does that impact all of this? When downloading ChatGPT apps, there are several out there. How do we know which one is the best to use? Also, there are many AI apps. Are some of these tasks better handled by using something more specific to the task?
Okay, that's many questions in one.
Yeah.
What's the first part of the question?
Is ChatGPT still only current through 2021? If I understand correctly, is it accessing information till 2021?
I believe so. I know there's new models like GPT-4 and 4.5. I'm not sure if they're with more recent data, but I do think there is a cutoff till 2021.
Yeah. We have another question from Dan. Did ChatGPT release a new version? I'm familiar with 4.5. I believe ChatGPT Corporate or something.
Yeah, ChatGPT does have the 4.5 and it's called Plus, I think. And then the corporate one, I think that's more of their enterprise solution. So that's their solution to companies that were mentioning that they don't want to send their private data into ChatGPT because there was some data privacy concerns that larger companies have. And so the enterprise package is basically for them to separate that company's data, put it in a different bucket than everyone that's feeding data into ChatGPT. So a more secure way for an enterprise company to use OpenAI.
We have one more question from Rakesh. How to know what's the best time to send email for a B2B prospect?
Yeah, so the best time, it starts with the intent data. So when should you reach out? So finding clues about the company that tell you that they're in market to buy your product or service. So like I said, this requires some brainstorming on your part, but if you're selling a service, looking for indicators that tell you that they might need your service. Like an easy one is if you're selling design service, if they're hiring a full-time designer, you want to reach out to them to have a conversation around their design needs, because maybe they won't hire this new person. Maybe they'll want to outsource it to an agency that does a better job at it. So that's a good example. And then in terms of time during the week, Monday to Friday between 9 to 5 working hours. Those are the best times.
There's one more question coming in. How do you download a LinkedIn profile to use as a prompt for ChatGPT?
So you go onto a person's profile and then you click on the 3 dots and it says download as PDF. So that would be the way to do it.
All right. From a regional, there's one more, Phil. So there are questions coming in so steadily. So there's one more. From a regional perspective, are we seeing generative AI being used differently to value add in the SDR process? Any Canadian specific insights, customer preferences, etc.?
From a regional perspective, are we seeing Gen AI been used differently to value add? Not sure I really understand the question, but we are seeing generative AI being used in the SDR process. So if you look at SDRs, they're doing a ton of manual tasks, finding contact information, finding those data points to personalize their outreach. It is prone to automation and AI. It is the problem that we solve at Yubico. And, you still need to do those, like someone needs to do those SDR tasks in the organization. It's either a human being does it, or you get a machine paired with a human being and you empower them to do more effective outreach. So I think companies are still going to have SDRs. The SDR role is not going away, but the SDR role is a high burnout, high churn type of job. The stats are crazy. It's, I think, 11 months on average is the average tenure for an SDR. And it's typically a very junior role. It's your first job as a sales professional. But nowadays, especially the modern workforce, hard to get someone to do copy paste type work, right? Now they're expecting for them to be using tools that help them. So yes, we are seeing it incorporated in a lot of different companies that have SDR teams.
Great. Maybe we can take one last question. What is the biggest mistake people do while using AI for B2B sales marketing, and how do we avoid it?
Yeah, so the biggest mistake is people thinking that it's going to replace a process versus empower them to do the process in a smarter way. So, because when people hear AI, they have some weird expectations that it's going to do everything for them. but AI is very good at pattern matching. It's very good, as we can see, generating content, summarizing things. But you need to be the one doing the instructions. You need to be the one feeding it great instructions. So Sid, for example, me and you are very good at doing Google searches, right? Doing a great Google search is actually a great skill, right? And we know a lot of people that don't know how to find that kind of research online, don't know how to do that good Google search. Similar thing happening here. So I think the biggest mistake is people don't learn, they're not right now learning how to create very good prompts because they're thinking, oh, this doesn't replace my work yet, but it could definitely augment you. So learning how to do better prompts is key here. And then there's one question here: how can I start training my sales team to be competent utilizing AI? Do you have more resources for AI training? We do have a lot of resources for AI training. You can reach out to any of us, and we'll be sending everyone an email after this webinar, so we can send more resources. But I mean, the best way to start is to attend webinars like this, find partners that are knowledgeable in AI, and just consume content around AI as a way to start, and then find the low-hanging fruit use cases within your company that you can start with. So it could be, hey, let's try to use AI to rewrite some of our existing email campaigns. That's a great place to start. And then let's run the test. Run the A/B test in your email platform today, and then measure, did the one that our marketing team create versus, like, which one delivered better results? The one the marketing team created, or we as the sales team created, or the AI assisted one? And just compare the results.
Yep.
So thank you everybody so much. I really enjoyed giving this talk. If you guys would like to see how AI could be used in your outreach process, please feel free to sign up through our website. We're more than happy to chat with you guys. Thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful day.